Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have Peter Mirabello, owner and chairman of Metal Finishing Technologies LLC, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownerships, best practices, and challenges that he may have faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to build and operate a business. Welcome to the show, Peter. It's so great to have you here. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course, before we dive into all things business, I'd love to learn a little bit about you. So feel free to share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I've been in aerospace my whole career. I've had a really good run at it in terms of being in the US and learning how to build things. There, I got invited to be in the middle of the Boeing Airbus wars by living in France. After 3 successful years there, I was pulled away for a startup Berkshire Hathaway company, a private jet company, and got to be an architect of what turned out to be a wonderful company. And then pivoted, got into my own, having my own shop and my own platform, which was a culmination of the first 3 steps. Personally, I have 2 daughters, live in North Florida, and think the great thing that I learned throughout my career was making sure that both sides of my life there, if you will, were thriving, and that was important to me as part of this, and it helped govern a lot to what I've built over time.
Wow, what an incredible background. And I'm very excited to dive in because this is something that I don't know a lot about. So I'm really excited to learn as well. So yeah, let's kind of start off. Like, how did you get into entrepreneurship and business ownership?
Well, I think I always had the bug, um, and I don't know that it was something that I really acted upon. And I think it was really kind of lucky for me that I started in a really big business that really taught me some of the fundamentals of the industry, how to build stuff and where it's headed. And getting a chance to go to Europe was really great to see what was really driving those industries, what was important to the owners and or the airlines in that case. Going on from there into the private jet world, it seems a little redundant to my previous intro. And after about 10 years there, or shorter than 10 years there, I was there for a total of 10 years, we had a big pivot at home. It's not really a big part of my story, but I had 2 young kids at the time and we lost their mom. And so I kind of had to make one of those decisions, about what was important. And I got some really good advice. I always get a lot of good advice, and I love to share good advice. And I wasn't sure what to do. I had this great career, and we're traveling around the world, and we have access to all these great things. But I have 2 little girls at home, and somebody said, you know, I'm going to tell you what to do, because I had asked them how would I handle this. And he said, every decision you make the question, what's in the best interest of the girls? That became the denominator for all decisions. And so from there, I knew I probably need to make a career change. So I went home to check on them, make sure they're okay. And we lived together, but I was traveling a lot. And that led me to say, well, I need to do something, but I need to be close to home. And I found this platform. And I bought the platform a little unbeknownst to me because of the timing. It was around 2011, which was at the tail end of that major banking crisis. So the economy had kind of come to a halt. But I wound up buying it against probably some popular wisdom. It wasn't the right wisdom, but some people thought I was nuts. But I knew that it was a platform. I knew it would solve my ability to be at home. And it also unleashed something inside me that told me, against all the naysayers, that it was certainly the right thing for me to do. But that's how I got into it. It was really driven that way. It was a big pivot in my career for sure.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and everything that you've been through and just I think that's very admirable that you were thinking about the girls and you were able to say yes to what you knew was right despite the naysayers. I think that's a golden nugget in this conversation. So already as entrepreneurs, we're often faced with hearing from a lot of voices and to be, steadfast and knowing what is right and going with it despite the odds and despite what people say is really, I think, a huge golden nugget. So thank you for sharing that.
Happy to. Certainly a big part of it, and it added to some of the excitement of the whole process and built and rebuilding the company.
Definitely. So how long, so you bought it in 2011. How long was the company in existence before 2011, before you bought it?
Started in 1947. It was in that building since 1970. The people that ran it uh, just had darling lives. These were really bright, well-educated community members who had a good life from the mid 70s to about 2003. And then one of them timed out and retired, and the other one just had a sudden and tragic end to his life. And so from 2003 through the downturn in the market, it kind of teetered and wavered. It was basically neglected. It was listing along, if you will. And when I took a look at it in 2010, and part of it was all the offshoring of manufacturing that occurred. It really, no one was really talking about manufacturing, certainly the specialty manufacturing that this group was doing. But I still thought there was a pretty good platform there. And there was the bones and foundation of it, but it had really had been, I don't know if the word is neglected, but they didn't have a lot to reinvest in it. They had lost their leaders, spiritual and otherwise, and so it was in a little bit of rough shape. Um, so on one hand, it's great because that during that compressed market, not a lot of people buying a business in this condition. It was probably very well bought, and I know it was very well bought. Um, so I think that was the one good thing. But that's how we wound up there, in pivoting into that space. And the journey from there was really what happens when you get in there. And Kate, I think this is really relevant. And I get asked this question a lot by some of the big magazines and stuff around. And it's really about there's a return of manufacturing, which means there's going to be a shortage of good suppliers. And there's also a lot of businesses that are going to come on the market as baby boomers retire. I think the number is like 10 million or something between now and 2035. Don't quote me on the number, but I promise you, when you look up the number, it's not going to be that far off. And there's opportunities to step into these platforms because there's a huge need to do it. But there's also going to be supply there of much wanted, folks in the industry. And I think that is something that I kind of sensed, but nobody really saw that in 2011. They didn't see the huge crunch we were going to get on the supply shortage during COVID and how important it was that we could become a little bit more self-reliant on certain things, or just the return of manufacturing. And with everything have gone offshore, it was a little bit barren. It's this really cool opportunity now to kind of get back in and really build an enterprise that can do a lot of things for a lot of people, the customers, of course, but also the employees that work there and their ability to be able to take care of their families and be part of a great community and be part of a career that continues to grow. Those are the things that are kind of behind it. And I think that's probably the spirit of what made this so much fun was building it, not for me, but building it for them.
Oh, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing about that as well. And, looking at the company now and what you've done and what you've helped build, what is your current company like? Like, you mentioned a little bit before our call about your ownership structure. So is there a board, or how does the ownership and or the leadership structure look like on your company?
It's a two-part question. One, the governance is great. We've got a good board. I brought in, some really good investors that I liked. And, when you start to uh, get into an investment in a business with partners that you haven't met, it's effectively a professional marriage. And the quality of that relationship is going to go a long way to just how you like everyday life, right? And so one of the keys is really finding folks that go about things with the same approach as you would in terms of what's important to them, whether it's trust or communication or timeliness or, understanding. Some may be process orientated, some may be entrepreneurial orientated, but we've assembled a really good diverse board. They really had a big hand in that. That's number one. I think even more importantly is the team that we have running the facility. This is what I'm really, really excited about. It's not just when I first got in there, the cupboard was kind of bare, and I had a couple of key people that joined us shortly thereafter, and they were really good, and they gave me a sense that, the numbers, good, bad, or indifferent, were going to be accurate so we could make good decisions. We were going to be safe in the shop and operate properly. But I would go to them there and say, okay, that's good. You guys are my scaffolding. Who's your
Sure.
scaffolding? And you start to build levels and depth, and we've gotten into that now and built not only depth in those areas, but built a really strong um, engineering team, which was one of the things that allows us to kind of move into this next level of excellence and all the other things that go in the manufacturing world. And I won't give you a checklist of what they are, but I'd be happy to talk about them. But that's how it is. So we've got a good team, we've got a good board, and we're aligned, right? And we've got a great deal of faith in the group that if we can, keep them on track, we set really good goals, we give them the tools to achieve that, we got a chance to be pretty good. And they're showing that that's to be true.
Wow, that's so cool. Especially how you talk about the team and being like a scaffolding for the company. I think that's a huge, like a great metaphor and a great way to look at the team. And so now currently the team you built, how many team members are you at?
The number's probably around 80 or 85. Yeah, it's a bit of a moving number, but again, that's in the vicinity.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Are you looking to grow that team? Or are you happy with where it's at right now?
No, I think, one of the things in doing this was there's a distinction between being a business owner and an entrepreneur. And the best way that I can describe it is I see it, a business owner wants to run a good business that's profitable, that's stable, and maybe even a little bit predictable. And that's a wonderful way. An entrepreneur is different, right? They don't build a business as much as they build an enterprise. And the enterprise, really, my goal has always been to say, look, I think when I bought it, we were 70 years old. And I said, you know what I can do? I can get you to 90 years old and it's going to be in really good health and somebody can take it to 100, right? And so when you start thinking in terms of 20 or 30 years and CEOs last 7 or 8 years, I knew there'd be two or three more behind me. So to answer your question, no, I think that there's plenty of room for good growth and smart growth and partnering. And we built a business that probably has some optionality as to do we acquire companies? Do we get acquired? Do we merge with other companies? But I certainly see the opportunity to continue to grow, to continue to employ more people, continue to maybe even expand our footprint, which those would be the things that would inspire me. I'm going to lean way more to the entrepreneurial side than just being able to say I own a business.
Oh, wow. I like that distinction too. I think that is really powerful and really true. And when you go
So,
into, you said expand your footprint, are you kind of what's the goal of yours and the company within the next 3 to 5 years?
so if anybody's thinking about the world of manufacturing, and this isn't just a manufacturing discussion, it's really about a business and really understanding what it really takes to operate it. But in our space, especially in aerospace, turnaround times are just critical, right? Because the longer an airplane's on the ground, the longer you have $100 million asset that's setting aside that you have to backfill with another $100 million asset, right? And so, in an extreme example, you have 100 airplanes and you can compress the downtime by 10 days, you just manufactured 1,000 days of lift, right? It's a real fundamental equation. And so, in that, what we do, we see that what we do is really critical and fun and it's unique and we're pretty good at it and it's kind of hard to do. But we could also probably find some adjacent processes or what we call adjacencies. So now you have somebody who needs our help and they send the part to us and there's a purchase order, we do the work and we send it back. They look at it, it's good, then they send it to the next person and the next person. And you can see that transit time could really compound it. We're getting more and more of these adjacencies under our roof so we can do it all under our roof, which is certainly good for us to touch the part 3 times and it's great for the customer. So one area would be the sort of logical expansion into adjacencies would make a lot of sense and probably be worthwhile for us and our customers.
Definitely. Looking at your, I kind of want to like dive into your role within the company currently. and what that looks like in your day to day. So, what are you currently doing in your day to day with the company? Are you working more in the business or on the business, or is there a bit of both?
No, it's definitely on the business, and it's really about what's next. There's a lot of good folks doing that. When we talk about culture and things like that, I just always like to empower the employees that we've asked to do certain things. When I got in there, one of the first things I said is there's never going to be a currency in this building. Says, but Peter says, you have your boss and you're talking to him, and all of a sudden somebody says, no, no, but Peter says, and you undermine the boss. We wouldn't do it. It's all really about what's next. We're at a really cool crossroads because in our industry, is really booming. There's a big need, but there's so many great other things that fit our eye, whether it's satellites or drones or space that we might be able to help in. And it's there. It's the adaptation of technology and really AI and building some databases we can really mine to make the business better. I don't think the AI is going to come in and necessarily displace people. It may make their jobs a little bit easier. I think the real value is understanding what we do from an engineering standpoint and really getting into those databases and see what worked and what didn't. But I think when I get an opportunity to think about applying technology, maybe what some partnerships are, that's really, what I do. And then the rest of it is just sometimes just helping the management understand what they're looking at. You don't know when you hand it over to somebody. Maybe you can see things a little bit differently. And so the rest of it is just kind of talking through them, staying sort of current of where the business is and support guidance and reassurance that, you know, you guys are doing a heck of a job. You know, There's the great example. Let me kind of bring that back to a tangible example. We look at every year as in 4 quarters. Well, there's a metaphor. Say a sports game is in 4 quarters. We had a great first quarter, and in the second quarter, one of our customers went on strike, and it really took a dent out of the quarter. But I said, look, you like sports metaphors? It's halftime. Make your adjustments. You'll have the second half to catch up. Number two, put a fence around the second quarter. You had a great first quarter. The third and the fourth quarter are yours to determine. It's just little simple things like that are reminders sometimes when people are in the business that hopefully are helpful.
That's a great way to look at it. It's very true because then it kind of breaks it into it's not a total loss or a total
Right.
way or the other. It's a okay, we can break it into these quarters and make a game plan for the
The
next
game's not over,
quarter.
right? There's still time on the clock. The game's never over in the third quarter. It's over at the end of the fourth quarter. There you go. And I think sometimes when you're facing adversity and you're kind of caught up and you kind of lose that perspective, I think sometimes that's what we do. I would say to anybody out there talking about being an entrepreneur, the first and foremost, the cornerstone responsibility is to create a vision. Communicate it so people can see it and give them the tools to get there. And then in my case, I'm happy to step out of the way because to me, it's that first part which really kind of inspires me. But that's it. And so you make sure they're staying on task. Don't lose sight of it. I use that denominator story that I shared earlier a lot of times in business too. What's in the best interest of what we're trying to accomplish? So yeah, that's it. I don't mean to be redundant to what you said, but I agree with what you said.
No, it's awesome. And looking at you, you mentioned facing adversities. And so, what is something as you're growing, as you're shifting, as the company takes shape? What is something that you're currently challenged with or within the company?
I think sometimes scaling is way harder than people realize. There's an expression that says it's easier to die from indigestion than starvation. And I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a really apt sort of business metaphor. And I only mean that, and you can get all this work in, but if you don't have the infrastructure then to service it at the levels that put you in that position, you're kind of playing bet the brand, if you will, right? And so it's really important for all to know how to go get the business, what our value proposition is, but also do we have enough infrastructure to meet this new demand, or is it possible this new demand is going to slow us down enough that we may annoy otherwise customers who are really enamored with us? And the idea would be able to see that at a level that they still feel like they're the only customer, and we've added three or four others, really created some depth to the business. So I think anytime you get into a scaling situation, I think that's always going to be a challenge. At the same time, in the middle of COVID, it was a completely different conversation. To go to the leaders and say, look, you're going to have to lower the break even of this company, right? There's not going to be as much work, so we're going to need to be responsible. None of them are overwhelming, especially if you can see them, right? Any problem that you can sort of define is at least approachable. But the one right now would be, yeah, the fun of trying to scale it and not just getting work into the shop, but really convincing their customers we're very good at this, and hopefully it would turn into a long-term relationship.
Okay, so that I'm just taking a few notes. That sparks my next question is so it sounds like you want to acquire more customers. And so how are you currently marketing to find your customers and clients?
Yeah, well, we have a really good business development team. You can do a lot of things online, and that's really where a majority of the initial traction comes from, right? You need to think like the customers, and anybody that's going to be working and purchasing for any of these big companies. First place they're going to look to your LinkedIn page or your Instagram page. So you need to have a good presence there. You need to understand what your message is, but you also need to get out and get to events and get in front of people. It's really that is still critical, the relationship side as well. And that's how we're approaching it. And we're just lucky enough to have a couple of folks that are very good at it, very good at opening doors, and really very good at telling stories. And that's so important. Whenever you're dealing with anything mechanical, nothing is perfect mechanically. We know that from the cars we drive or the appliances we have or the airplanes we fly on, they are all going to need some maintenance. And so whenever you're doing something mechanically, it's not always going to go uh, exactly to plan. And if the only time you talk to somebody is when there's a problem, you really don't have a relationship. You're the complaint department. But if you've got a good and you've established trust and they understand that you've gone to bat and you say, look, we've helped you three or four other times, and I've got tons of examples that I won't bore you with. Then when there's a problem, you've got a little bit of credibility to say these aren't people that are kind of going off the road here. They're actually there's probably something up. We get it, and we'll figure out how to work with them and be patient. But that's a big part of what we get out of business development as well, because it's way more expensive to get new customers than it is to maintain existing customers. At the same time, those things that make you good with your customers are also the things that will hopefully attract new customers. So again, not crazy complicated, but you get some people with a certain skill set that can make that part of the business move along nicely for you.
Definitely. Building rapport and relationships is so that's again another golden nugget too. As we're kind of like wrapping up our conversation, I'd like to dive into our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right, it'll be four questions and just feel free to answer very top of mind. All right. Question
All
number
right.
it is, what is the key to success for you?
People, empowering people, hands down, and watching people thrive and grow. There's been no greater sort of feedback for any work I've ever done than to watch people around me thrive.
Yes, I love that. Number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Markets are cyclical. You learn early in life when you're an adult that adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. So, but hang in there, right? It's all part of it. It's all part of it. It's always worth working through. Keep your eye on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Accept the setbacks when you can, be responsible about them, but keep going. Keep going. The rewards are the rewards, personal, professional, and otherwise, are worth it.
Definitely. That one's going to resonate really well with our audience for sure. Number three is what is, I guess it could be a book, a podcast, an article, just anything that has impacted you recently.
Oh boy. Well, listen, lately I've been kind of on the Michael Lewis train for some writing that I've been asked to do on this subject. So I'm a big fan of that. Currently have three books going, and that's just, I just read a ton. And the two that are probably worth noting right now was The Agony and the Ecstasy by Irving Stone. New York Times bestseller, 1961, about the life and times of Michelangelo. It's like 600 pages, but boy, is it rich. And Irving Stone, what an author. That came through some stuff I was reading on Charlie Munger, who I really look to for advice. But the book that I'm really excited about right now is called Autobiography of a Yogi, which was probably written too about 75 or 80 years ago. And I picked that up off of a reading list, I think from Steve Jobs or something. And this talk about finding a balance was really spectacular. So those would be the three: the Pitch Anything by Owen Claff, The Agony and the Ecstasy by Irving Stone, and Autobiography of a Yogi. I
Yes,
wait. What's that?
I am a trained yoga
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh my goodness. Oh,
yes, I read through yeah, I'll have to check that
this
one
guy
out.
is a good dude, man. This is you know what, we'll talk offline sometime about it, but this stuff in terms of perspective and brilliance and um boy, oh, I could give you 12 quotes right now, but I won't. Okay, anyway, so that's what I'm reading now. And again, I like to read. So it goes pretty quickly.
Wonderful. Yes. Our final question in the rapid fire is if you could wave a magic wand and rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
It would be probably the adaptation of AI and the ability to scale. Um, that would be it. I think the pieces are there. I think it's just, it's a two piece approach because one, we can create it, but our customers, no matter how big they are, have to be in a position where they can accept it. But I understand these are going to be powerful tools, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into them and bring them to bear. So that would be something that would be top list.
Oh, that's perfect. Yes, AI is definitely a hot topic. So that's on my list too. But thank you for answering those rapid fires. Before we get into our final question of the day, what is most inspiring? Or before we get to that question, how can
Yeah.
people find you online and connect with your business?
Metal finishing technologies, but also Pete Mirabello, or I think it's Peter Mirabello. LinkedIn would be another one because I have a little bit of bandwidth now, and I've got a hand in some really projects I'm really excited about as well. So those would be the two ways to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pete. And now to our final question of the day. What is most inspiring to you today?
Most inspiring to me today, the ability to build. That's where I get my ability to build, the ability to learn, the ability to find really sort of a really good balance in my life. That when one of those is off kilter, they seem to take too much of my attention and knock the other two kind of out of box. Yeah. Can I ask you the same question? What inspires you today?
Uh,
I'd love to know because I'm not, excuse me.
yes, I guess there's two things that really inspire me today. I would say growth-minded conversations like this really inspire me, which is why I love what I do as a podcast
Oh,
host.
wow.
That's one. And the other one for me is music. Music has a way it's the soul speaking. And, however anybody interacts with music, whether they're a musician or whether they're listening to music or using it to help them get through something hard or even journaling with music on. I think music has a way to heal and it has a way for people to express themselves creatively and in any way they need to. So I think music is a very powerful tool and that's something that inspires me in every day.
Wow, I so get it. So that's really That's really interesting. I know personally, one of the kids is a songwriter, like went to college as a songwriter and takes journals and puts them to music in an hour. And it's really, it's really a gift. And yeah, I can see where the impact would be.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
look, I really enjoyed talking to you. Humbly say, I hope it was worthwhile. I hope it wasn't too expansive left or right. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. It's just none of this conversation was about me, but it's about these ideas and, what we're doing and what's important. But, you know, just say
Yeah.
thank you for the time.
Thank you too. It was incredible to have this discussion. And to all of our listeners out there, our viewers who are watching this, take a pass through this a couple times. It was so inspiring. Thank you so much for your kind and wise words today, Pete.
Thank you, Kay. Well, I really appreciate the time. I hope it was a little bit worthwhile. I just love to help anybody out there that just be a little bit inspired. That's a good thing.